So if you're a team leader, if you could make yourself somewhat prominent, but then just disperse yourself around the room, in a moment we're going to ask your teams to join you. Now, if you're a subject matter expert, a speaker, or a peer reviewer, just hold tight for the moment. All right. So if team leaders could put up their hands again, and let's start on my left-hand side of the room. So everyone shouting out your name, your team color, and what your mission is.
My name is Alex Miral, and the team is training in the MLM in new ways.
Great. And what color are you? You're blue. So everyone who's a member of the blue team, if you mind moving over towards Alex, he can see who his team members are. All right. Who's our next team leader? Madam.
And we're doing what happens after training.
Very good. And you look like you're red. Very good. So if you're a member of the red team, if you could please go over there, that would be great. Who's our third team leader?
Hi, I'm Monica, and we're doing training in fragile states. And we are a funny shade of green, a dark green.
A dark green. So if you look at your name badge and you happen to be dark green, if you can move over there, that would be fantastic. Who is our fourth team leader? Now you're a bit too close to your compatriot there.
Any more red?
Very good. So if you're a light green person, if you could head over there, that would be great. Who's our fifth team leader? Oh, very good, sir. Great. And you are pink? Very good. So if you are a pink person, if you could go over to the center of the room there, that would be excellent. Where are other team leaders? Do you have another team leader at all? Sir. Orange, very good. And do you mind just saying what your team is going to be looking at? Incentivizing learning. So if you're an orange person, if you could gravitate over there, that would be fantastic. So let me just double check. We have red, orange, light blue, dark green, light green. Do we have delivering existing training in new ways, a very light blue color? How's that team? Oh, we're missing dark blue, creating structures to support change. Who's a dark blue leader? If anyone's got any concerns about leaving your things where they are, feel free to do that at the moment. But when you go to your workrooms, you should take your things with you. But for the moment, just feel comfortable to leave them where they are. Do we have a dark blue team leader? Meanwhile, if you're a dark blue team member, if you could come over here. Now there's two additional groups. We have a group of subject matter experts and speakers. If you're an SME or a speaker, if you could go to that far corner of the room, that would be great. And then the final group are the peer reviewers. If you're a peer reviewer, if you could actually head over to the table where Michael is putting up his hand at the moment. Cool. So now we've got a very important question. Is anybody actually left out, not in a group of one sort or another, apart from the organizing team? Excellent. Good. All right, so why are we splitting into these groups? We're splitting into these groups because we're moving from theory to action. And each of the teams which have a color have a mission. And your mission is to develop the idea that you've been given or worked with in your team leader into an actual and true actionable plan. So this is the theory into action. Our group of SMEs over there are providing help around two particular areas. One is best practices in instructional design. The other is good practices in measurements. They'll be helping you, teams, to develop your ideas. And then we have our group of friendly peer reviewers over here who are providing feedback, and really their job is to make sure that your plan is as good as it can possibly be. Any questions so far on what I've covered? All right. So we're now going to talk about page 3 of the workbook. I can see that the dark blue team is already very responsive and on the move because they've, yeah, okay. So we're about to enter a series of working sessions. And what you'll see is we actually have 4 different working sessions punctuated either by a speaker who will be giving some information which will hopefully fuel the progress of the working sessions, or some peer review which is giving you some guidance on what you should be thinking about. So work session number 1, which is here on the screen, will be all about refining the concept, the idea that you have, and trying to evaluate what kind of impact you really want it to achieve. How is it going to actually make some difference in immunization training? We'll then have a break where we will listen to a speaker, and then move into work session number 2, which is all about, well, what activities will this idea need to engage in? What's actually going to be our implementation plan? And then at the end of the day today, there will be an opportunity to present your idea to the whole group. Not least, I think everyone will be interested in a little bit more detail about what everyone else is working on, and get some initial review or feedback from our peer reviewers. Then when we assemble tomorrow, after a speaker who's talking about measurement, surprise, surprise, work session number 3 will be about how do we actually measure the impact, the success that our idea is going to have. And then after another speaker, we'll be talking about sustainability, resource requirements, what do we actually need to implement this plan. And then we'll culminate tomorrow in a final presentation, peer review, and essentially awards by category. Don't worry, you're not competing against each other. The idea is that the peer reviewers will essentially notify or highlight what aspects of the different presentations they think are particularly strong in certain areas. So I'll pause there again. Any questions so far on what I've covered? Now you've got workbooks, madam.
Yeah, I think you mentioned at the beginning that we will be developing plans. And I guess my question is, whose plans? Plans for
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So what you should do is imagine yourself in a virtual team, and specifically what your organization, or whichever hat you're wearing, is doing, I think is less important than what needs to be done. Conversely, towards the end of the process, we are encouraging people that if you actually feel this idea has real merits, and you as an individual or your organization might have some energy to take it forward, then that is a good thing. Conversely, you shouldn't feel constrained by, well, if I necessarily myself wouldn't be able to prosecute the idea, should I hold back? Not at all. You should really just imagine what could be done in this context. So you have in front of you, and thank you for that question, you have in front of you workbooks, which we hope you'll find really helpful. And if you turn to pages 15 to 17, you'll see an example of the resources you've got for this work session number 1. So there's an introduction, which will help hopefully give a little more information about what you want to achieve in the work session. There's pages 15 to 17. Some additional useful information, some questions to consider, steps 1, 2, and 3 that your work group can go through, space to write down notes and observations, and also a look ahead to the next session. In addition to that, during your working sessions, you should expect SMEs and peer reviewers to come on in and join the conversation, and hopefully you'll find that very helpful. But just don't be surprised if they turn up and start to contribute something. One thing I would say, though, is that the workbooks are a guide. So if your team is making great progress doing something a bit different, that's absolutely fine. Conversely, if you find the flow of the workbook helpful, the questions good, then please just use those as a resource. Here's some top tips for you. The team leads have all been briefed, so if this all feels a bit new and confusing, hopefully they've got a little bit more time on you. One thing I would also say is concentrate on having a really fruitful discussion which moves your ideas forward more than being very concerned about the presentation I'm going to give at the end of today and the end of tomorrow. Please do ask for help if you get stuck. We're really happy to assist anybody. You've been put in the group that you've been put in largely based on the preferences which people listed in the survey which went out ahead of the meeting. Not everyone got their first choice, but we hope you got at least a very good choice and you're happy with it. But if you are uncomfortable, or you have any concerns at all, don't hesitate to reach out to any member of the organising team and we will help you. So again, any questions so far on what I've covered? I must be a great learning facilitator or something. What I would say is finally, thank you, because we're asking you to work pretty hard over the next 12 to 16 hours. This is actually quite an experiment in getting such a large group of people who've come together to try and do something so ambitious. But we really hope and believe that this will be a great learning opportunity for everybody, and actually doing it in many ways is exactly the kind of experience which we're trying to emulate when we do immunization training. So you've now got 5 minutes to head out to your work. But effectively, post-training follow-up, our red team is off to Saulo Miro. Our orange team is off to Saulo Ser. And apologies for massacring Spanish. Creating structures to support change is off to Saulo Fortuny. And then I won't go through all the rest of them, but effectively all those rooms are either just in the foyer outside or a little bit down the corridor on your left-hand side. All right. So with that, you're welcome to head out. At this point, I would take your belongings with you. And thank you.